Santorini, the jewel of the Aegean, is a place where myth and reality intertwine. Its iconic whitewashed buildings perched atop dramatic cliffs overlooking the deep blue caldera have made it one of the most photographed and visited destinations in the world. Yet beneath its breathtaking beauty lies a geological reality that has shaped its history and could determine its future. The question of whether Santorini will sink or rise is not just a matter of scientific curiosity. It is a question that touches the hearts of millions who have fallen in love with this island and the lives of those who call it home. To understand the fate of Santorini, we must delve into the complex interplay of tectonic forces, volcanic activity, and the lessons of history. The Aegean region, where Santorini is located, is one of the most geologically active areas in the world. It sits at the convergence of the African and Eurasian tectonic plates, a boundary marked by frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Santorini itself is the remnant of a massive volcanic caldera formed by one of the largest eruptions in recorded history, the Minoan eruption around 1600 BCE. This cataclysmic event, estimated to have been a magnitude 7.0 or higher, reshaped the island, leaving behind the crescent-shaped caldera we see today. The eruption was so powerful that it is believed to have contributed to the decline of the Minoan civilization on Crete, some 110 kilometers to the south. Today, Santorini is part of the South Aegean Volcanic Arc, a chain of volcanic islands that includes Medhana, Milos, and Niziros. The arc is the result of the subduction of the African plate beneath the Eurasian plate, a process that generates magma and fuels volcanic activity. The region is also crisscrossed by numerous fault lines, making it highly susceptible to earthquakes. In recent years, scientists have been closely monitoring the area as signs of unrest, such as ground deformation and increased seismic activity, have raised concerns about the potential for another major event. The question of whether Santorini will sink or rise hinges on two primary scenarios: a massive earthquake or a volcanic eruption. Both scenarios are deeply interconnected, as the tectonic forces that drive earthquakes also fuel volcanic activity. To understand these scenarios, we must first examine the geological mechanisms at play. In the case of a magnitude 8.0 megaquake, the consequences for Santorini could be catastrophic. Such an earthquake would likely occur along the Hellenic Arc, the boundary where the African plate is subducting beneath the Aegean microplate. The subduction process is not smooth. The plates are locked together, building up stress over time. When the stress exceeds the strength of the rocks, the plates suddenly slip, releasing enormous amounts of energy in the form of an earthquake. A magnitude 8.0 earthquake would release roughly 1,000 times more energy than the 1956 Amorgos earthquake, which at magnitude 7.5 was one of the most destructive in modern Greek history. The immediate effects of such a megaquake would be devastating. The ground shaking would be intense, potentially lasting several minutes, and could trigger landslides on the steep cliffs of Santorini. The island's infrastructure, much of which is built on loose volcanic ash and pumice, would be highly vulnerable to collapse. Tsunamis generated by the displacement of the seafloor could inundate the low-lying areas of the island, causing further destruction and loss of life. The psychological impact on the population, many of whom still remember the 1956 earthquake, would be profound. But what about the long-term effects? Could Santorini sink or rise as a result of such an earthquake? The answer lies in the concept of coseismic and post-seismic deformation. During an earthquake, the sudden release of stress causes the crust to deform. In some cases, this deformation can lead to subsidence or sinking of land. In other cases, it can cause uplift or rising. The direction and magnitude of this deformation depend on the geometry of the fault and the nature of the slip. In the case of Santorini, a megaquake along the Hellenic Arc could cause significant subsidence. This is because the subduction process tends to pull the overriding plate downward. However, the situation is complicated by the presence of the magma chamber beneath the island. The magma chamber, which is responsible for the volcanic activity, exerts an upward pressure on the crust. If the earthquake were to trigger a volcanic eruption, the dynamics could change dramatically. A volcanic eruption on Santorini would be a different kind of catastrophe. The island's volcanic system is still active, as evidenced by the formation of new islands within the caldera, such as Nea Kameni, which emerged in the 18th century. A future eruption could range from a relatively small event, similar to the 1950 eruption, to a catastrophic explosion on the scale of the Minoan eruption. The latter scenario, while less likely, would have global consequences, including significant climate impacts from the release of volcanic gases and ash. In the event of a major eruption, the most immediate concern would be the pyroclastic flows, fast-moving currents of hot gas and volcanic material that can obliterate everything in their path. The caldera walls, which provide the island's iconic views, could collapse, leading to further destruction. The eruption could also trigger tsunamis, as the sudden displacement of water within the caldera sends waves radiating outward. The long-term effects of a major eruption on Santorini's elevation are more straightforward. The expulsion of magma from the chamber would reduce the upward pressure on the crust, leading to subsidence. This process, known as caldera collapse, has been observed in other volcanic systems such as Krakatoa in Indonesia. In the case of Santorini, the subsidence could be significant, potentially altering the island's topography and coastline. But what if a megaquake higher than magnitude 8.0 were to occur? While such an event is rare, it is not impossible. The largest recorded earthquake in the region was the 365 Crete earthquake, estimated to have been magnitude 8.5 or higher. This earthquake caused widespread destruction across the eastern Mediterranean and generated a tsunami that reached as far as Alexandria, Egypt. A similar event today would have even more devastating consequences, given the increased population and development in the region. A megaquake of this magnitude would likely cause massive subsidence along the Hellenic Arc, as the overriding plate is pulled downward by the subducting African plate. The effects on Santorini would be compounded by the potential for volcanic activity. The immense stress released by the earthquake could destabilize the magma chamber, triggering an eruption. The combination of subsidence and volcanic activity could lead to a dramatic reshaping of the island, with some areas sinking and others rising. The scientific community is acutely aware of the risks posed by such events. In recent years, researchers have been using advanced technologies such as GPS and satellite radar to monitor ground deformation and seismic activity in the region. These studies have revealed that Santorini is currently experiencing a period of inflation, with the ground rising by several centimeters per year. This inflation is thought to be caused by the accumulation of magma beneath the island, a sign that the volcanic system is still active. While the current rate of inflation does not necessarily indicate an imminent eruption, it is a reminder that Santorini is a dynamic and ever-changing landscape. The lessons of history, from the Minoan eruption to the 1956 earthquake, serve as a stark reminder of the power of nature and the fragility of human existence in the face of such forces. For the people of Santorini, the question of whether the island will sink or rise is not just a matter of scientific interest, it is a question of survival. The island's economy is heavily dependent on tourism, and any major geological event would have devastating consequences for the local population. At the same time, the resilience of the people of Santorini, who have lived in the shadow of the volcano for millennia, is a testament to the human spirit. In the end, the fate of Santorini is a reminder of the delicate balance between beauty and danger, creation and destruction. Whether the island sinks or rises, its story is one of resilience and adaptation, a testament to the enduring power of nature and the indomitable spirit of those who call it home. As scientists continue to monitor the region and unravel the mysteries of the Earth's inner workings, we can only hope that the lessons of the past will guide us in preparing for the future. Santorini, with its stunning vistas and turbulent history, stands as a symbol of both the fragility and the strength of life on this dynamic planet. Update from Greece, February 24, 2025. Seismic activity in Greece remains persistent, particularly in the Santorini region, where an ongoing earthquake swarm continues to raise concerns. The situation has disrupted tourism, forcing cruise ships to alter their routes even during the winter off-season. As uncertainty looms over the area, scientists are closely monitoring these developments, emphasizing that the outlook for Santorini remains unpredictable. Recent seismic data highlights a pattern of tremors concentrated between Santorini and Amorgos. The latest readings indicate that the swarm has shifted westward after previously trending eastward. A closer examination of the magnitude and frequency of these quakes reveals a steady stream of seismic events. The early hours of February 2nd began with a minor tremor, while the preceding day, February 1st, ended with a magnitude 2.0 earthquake occurring just before midnight. This pattern suggests ongoing tectonic adjustments within the region. The primary concern lies in the movement of magma beneath Santorini's caldera. As magma intrudes into the area, it lubricates underlying fault lines, potentially triggering additional seismic activity. This phenomenon can lead to both minor tremors and larger, more disruptive earthquakes. Data from February 2nd underscores this trend, with multiple shallow quakes recorded, including magnitudes of 3.1 and 3.3 at depths of approximately 2 kilometers. Similar patterns persisted throughout the day, with seismic events of varying intensities shaking the region. A review of recent trends reveals that seismic activity surged on February 21st, following a relative lull in the preceding days. A significant magnitude 4.0 earthquake was detected on February 20th, though it occurred slightly outside the primary swarm zone. This raises questions about whether the tremors in Santorini are transmitting seismic energy outward, influencing nearby fault systems. A broader look at the earthquake records indicates that the number of tremors on February 20th exceeded what is currently available on standard earthquake lists, highlighting the swarm's intensity. Real-time seismic monitoring from the Terra station on Santorini provides further insight into the situation. The station's latest seismograms display noticeable shocks, confirming continued ground movement. A long-term analysis of earthquake frequency reveals that the swarm began intensifying around January 26th, peaking between February 14th and 15th. Since then, activity has gradually tapered off, though the last few days suggest that seismic unrest remains an ongoing concern. With Santorini welcoming approximately 3.5 million visitors annually, the ongoing geological unrest has had a profound impact on both the local population and the tourism industry. The past 3 weeks alone have witnessed over 23,000 earthquakes, disrupting what is typically a serene destination known for its picturesque landscapes and romantic getaways. Geophysicist Emily Hoff from the University of Oregon, who has been studying Santorini's volcanic activity, suggests that while magma is moving beneath the surface, this does not necessarily indicate an imminent eruption. According to her research, the earthquakes currently being observed are primarily following the movement of magma, gradually relieving pressure within the system. This process, she argues, may actually reduce the immediate likelihood of an eruption, as much of the intruding magma tends to remain trapped within the crust rather than reaching the surface. However, historical patterns from other volcanic systems suggest that the situation could change. In Iceland, for example, a significant magma intrusion detected on November 10th initially remained underground, stretching approximately 15 kilometers. Over time, magma continued to accumulate, eventually leading to eruptions. The scenario in Santorini could be even more concerning, as some estimates suggest that the current intrusion may extend as far as 30 kilometers, twice the length of the Icelandic event. While the two systems are geologically different, the parallels highlight the potential for future eruptive activity. If an eruption were to occur, the most likely site would be underwater, southwest of the island. A minor event may not cause widespread destruction unless significant ash emissions disrupt air travel and tourism. However, some experts caution that an underwater eruption could trigger additional geological hazards. The collapse of newly formed craters or fault lines could generate localized tsunamis, potentially impacting nearby Greek and Turkish coastlines. With Greece declaring a state of emergency for Santorini, Amorgos, Anafi, and other nearby islands, potentially extending until March 14th if conditions remain unstable, the future of tourism in the region hangs in uncertainty. Greek seismologist Kostas Papados acknowledges the difficulty in making precise predictions, explaining that multiple monitoring systems, including seismographs, ground deformation trackers, landrise measurements, and gas emission detectors, are being used to assess the evolving situation. Satellite data has confirmed some land uplift and increased gas emissions, but he emphasizes that at this stage, there is no definitive forecast. While slight de-escalation in seismic activity has been observed, past events have demonstrated that volcanic systems can be unpredictable, often delivering unexpected developments. Despite the lack of significant damage to Santorini's infrastructure, the intensity and frequency of recent earthquakes have raised concerns among both scientists and travelers. Multiple countries have issued travel advisories, and the Hellenic Coast Guard has imposed traffic restrictions across several key ports, including Athenios, Amouti Bay, Phyra Bay, Koros, Thasha, and Armeni. Authorities are also considering the construction of a new evacuation port designed to withstand landslides and cliff collapses while providing sufficient capacity to facilitate a large-scale departure if necessary. However, even amid the uncertainty, interest in Greece as a travel destination remains strong. Travel agencies report that Santorini continues to be a top choice for honeymooners who see the island not just as a vacation spot, but as the fulfillment of a dream. While some remain unfazed by the seismic activity, others are more concerned about the potential for volcanic eruptions, underwater collapses, and tsunami threats. The travel industry is closely monitoring the situation, maintaining communication with local partners to ensure a safe and seamless experience for visitors. Cruise lines, on the other hand, are demonstrating greater caution. Although it is still the off-season, some scheduled port visits have already been canceled. The Viking Star, originally set to be the first cruise ship of the season to dock in Santorini, has rerouted to the port of Suda in Crete instead. The next scheduled arrival for a Viking cruise ship is set for March 11th, though whether that visit will proceed remains uncertain. A representative from Viking acknowledged the ongoing concerns, echoing sentiments expressed by experienced scientists who warn that official reassurances may not always reflect the true risk. As they put it, monitoring does not save you. A sobering reminder that while observation can provide valuable data, it offers no guarantees of safety in the face of a dynamic and unpredictable natural system. Viking has reaffirmed its commitment to closely monitoring the situation, stating that any necessary changes will be made to ensure the safety of passengers. The company has assured that affected guests and their travel advisors will be informed directly. As part of a proactive approach, Viking has already begun adjusting its itineraries, replacing Santorini as a port of call for voyages scheduled in March and April. Given these updates, the likelihood of the March 11th cruise stopping in Santorini appears increasingly uncertain. The unfolding situation remains unpredictable. While there is hope that seismic activity will gradually subside, stabilizing the region, the possibility of a sudden escalation cannot be ruled out. The delicate balance between nature's forces and human expectations continues to unfold, leaving both scientists and travelers waiting to see what will come next. Santorini stands at a crossroads between history and nature's unpredictable forces. While experts analyze the shifting ground beneath this iconic island, one thing remains clear: its future is anything but certain. Will the island rise, sink, or remain in a delicate state of equilibrium? Only time will tell.